Dianna Russini got my attention this morning talking about the Terry McLaurin situation on her podcast and kind enough to make a couple minutes for us to talk through the situation. Dianna, what's up? How are you?
What's up, guys? I told your producer that I want to be introduced now. I don't want to be insider. I don't want to be Scoop City podcast host. I just want to be MILF. Just straight up MILF. That's what I'm going for.
What the hell?
That is such a...
I'm just trying. I am trying out here. It is hard in the streets, guys, to keep up. But
if you start calling yourself MILF, you're going to get a lot of followers.
No, I'm so not a MILF, but, look, I used to be like, I never want to be that. I'm leaning into it now. I'm like, all right, let's just do it. Forget it.
I will let Jeff introduce you as that next time you call in. No problem.
Could you imagine if, you didn't know the show or you didn't know the relationship I have with you guys and you're just, tuning in the car, just sitting in traffic and you're like, God, these guys are being a little aggressive with this lady,
You imagine,
do they know?
Dude, imagine Jackie Bradford from Channel 4 was like, oh, Diana's going to be on JP's show. I'll turn it on. And she turns it on, and that's the first thing she hears.
Like what is going on with these people? It's all me. I'm the problem. It's not you guys. So, anyways, we got so much going on. I was just having this conversation with someone this morning. It's only August 5th. And I feel like we're in mid-season already in terms of just coverage and demands and stories. And obviously the hold-ins are the story. And in Washington, it's all about Terry and where they're at. And the question everyone wants to know is, where is it at? Is this getting done? And I continue to say the same thing that I'm sure you guys are saying as well, and other reporters talking to you about it which is everyone feels good this is going to get done. It's just really when and how close are they to striking a deal?
Mm-hmm. That's totally it. I think the NFL overall don't care about all the added following and hoopla. The Commanders may not like it. Terry may not like it, but the NFL loves it. I just think the deal, it makes sense for them to work out a deal. It doesn't make any sense for them not to work out a deal.
So much of this is who has the stomach for it too. I'm following with the Trey Hendrickson story, and I'm in touch with him talking about what he's doing. And, I can just tell through his voice. It's hard. It's hard to do this. These guys want to be on the field. Look at Terry. You guys are there every day with him. You see him. He's a class act. He's a professional. He loves his team. He's all Washington all the time. Yes, he asked for a trade. But do we all really think Terry McLaurin wants to play somewhere else? No, of course he doesn't. And we know Washington wants him there just based on everything that he provides this offense, knowing that he's the number one weapon, and knowing all the other great stuff that fits into the culture of what Dan Quinn wants. And he is the poster child for what a commander should be. I think we could all agree. It's just, who's going to give here? Who's going to be willing to say, all right, Terry, you're not going to get the 32, 33, 34 top dollar right now, because the reality is you are 30 years old. But at the same time, Washington, you've got a quarterback on a very cheap deal. You're all in. You've got the vets signed up. They're ready to win. You went all the way to the NFC Championship game last year. You can do this year. Champagne problems. This is a good problem to have, and you got the money. Maybe you're willing to overpay a bit. So I think we're at that point where it's starting to feel like we're getting closer. I just can't report right now at this moment, guys, any second. I don't think it's that close.
I don't think so. One thing that I think is interesting from a time perspective, and I don't just want to bug you on Terry. I want to talk Micah and Hendrickson and everything going on. But you're starting to get to the point in time where it's starting to matter. These joint practices tomorrow against a Mike Vrabel coach team matter. That's some good work. Then this Monday nighter, the preseason game too, the Bengals are going to put Joe Burrow out there. My guess is that means Higgins and Chase, assuming they're healthy. There's going to be some real work. Does that turn the timetable up at all for Washington? Okay, we actually need to see what our starting offense looks like, and it's way better with 17 out there.
Well, the general manager of the Washington Commanders has ties to San Francisco. And what did we see last year? Yeah. What did we see with them, right? How many injuries and issues? And those players that held out or held in were very vocal halfway through the season when they were all struggling of dealing with those negotiations during training camp hurt me. It's actually hard to find a player now who is that was great for us. It's it's never good. And just getting those game reps, especially at a time where these preseason games don't matter, but the joint practices are so valuable.
Yeah.
I really feel like that's shifted over the last few seasons where it's become all about these joint practices. And so they're going to really see what the offense looks like tomorrow. So you got to figure McLaurin's camp is probably drooling over what this is going to look like against a very good or at least improved defense in New England, which I'll see you up there, JP. I'm headed up there right now as we speak.
Awesome. We're both going. We're flying up tonight.
Right, it'll be great. So we'll be able to see with our own eyes tomorrow. Okay, this is what it looks like against the competition now, against a defense that they're not familiar with, that they don't know, they haven't prepped against, or maybe they prepped against, but they haven't practiced against. And then maybe this is where you go, okay, all right, we get it. And look, Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, and I'll even say all the way up to Josh Harris, who is weighing in on this and watching this and observing and making sure that this thing stays on the tracks. They know what Terry means. Like, that's not – I don't think this is this idea – because sometimes we see this, too, where it's like, man, do these guys get it? Like, I kind of feel this way in Cincinnati. Like, do you know what your defense looks like without Trey Hendrickson? Like, do we have to really run the tape back here? Washington knows the value of Terry. They really do. But I don't think it hurts Terry's camp and his side to the story if the next few days against New England, it doesn't look great.
Yeah, you're right about that. I just think this is a time where nobody ever says it, where front offices and coaches probably don't see eye to eye. Because the front office doesn't have to care about the chemistry. The coach has to care about the chemistry of the football team. And as you spoke about San Francisco last year, it screwed their chemistry up. Last thing you want happening here is your chemistry of your team to be screwed up based off of what they had last year.
Kyle Shanahan was running up the staircase to get the deal done to basically barge through John Lynch's office for Brandon Ayuk when things were going sour. Like they had their own set of drama. And that's just speaking to the difference between what the coach wants and what the GM wants, right? And it's not saying that they're on completely separate pages. It's just like anything else in life. Like when you have to be the one to deal with it every single day like the head coach does, it definitely feels a lot heavier. And, I love whenever these situations come up, just getting the opinions of others, because GMs and head coaches tend to be a little bit more rational when it's not their own team and own players. So, I've spoken to a lot of people who are like, Terry wants to be rewarded for what Terry's done, and that's just not football. That's just not the NFL. We all want to be rewarded for what we've done, but in this league, it's about what you can do. And I think that's part of the Adam Peters philosophy of like, yes, thank you. You're incredible for what you've done. We appreciate you because this team was you before we got Jaden. And you carried us through some rough times, but you're 30, right? You're going to be 30 in a month. So it's unfortunate, but I don't know. I have a good feeling that they're going to be able to find a way.
I think you both have said it. It just makes too much sense for both sides. And where are you going to go? Like, if this kind of impasse was happening in March with the draft coming, maybe a trade could actually make some sense where you get some picks and you start to backfill. But at this point in early August with the season on the horizon, a trade doesn't make sense. Like, who helps you win now? And it certainly isn't a draft pick next year. Talking with our friend Dianna Russini here on the Rude Guest Hotline. You can follow Dianna at DM Russini, 2 S's in Russini. Let's go elsewhere around the league because I think you land in the same space B and I do where I think something's going to get done with Terry. Terry's wearing burgundy and gold. The situation in Dallas doesn't seem nearly as friendly, I would say. Like, what are the chances Parsons actually isn't a Cowboy in a month?
Well, that's just interesting because, when we first started talking about Terry, I'm like, yeah, this just feels good. And maybe that's just because I've been working on the Micah story where it is not good at all. Like, at least you see Buddy Baker down there talking, with people with Washington. They've had multiple conversations. I don't know how great they go, but at least they're talking. In Dallas, they're not even talking to the agent. There's just this understanding that when Micah Parsons met with Jerry Jones over a day and a half span, that the conversation they had was about the contract. And Micah, his version of it is, no, that wasn't. We were just talking. Jerry Jones's version of it is, that was a deal. That's what we do here in Dallas. I talk to the star players, we talk about, and we negotiate. And that was a negotiation. And that is where the rub is, because there was obviously a miscommunication here. And you look back at Dak Prescott, for example, when he was going through his contract situation last year and, that thing went all the way up to kickoff. But if you recall, I think it was out there, and if it's not, I can share that when Jerry approached Dak Prescott about a contract, Dak said, look, I'll talk to you about leadership and the things that you want me to provide this team, but I'm not talking numbers. You can call Todd France my agent, right? And so there was never a negotiation with Dak because he immediately made it clear, I'm not doing this. Micah dipped his toe in. Micah played the game and got caught. And we could discuss if it was fair, unfair, all of it. But
think about this. The NFL doesn't want to talk to a player unless the player has an agent per se.
The PA, the rules
How
dictate
in the
that.
hell can Jerry claim he talked to a player directly and negotiated a deal? That's illegal. And if they had a deal, it would be signed. You would have a written up deal. Word of mouth, just talking does not solve a deal. This is where the NFL, where they get screwed at. You got Jerry Jones, one of the biggest owners out there. He's doing what he's not supposed to be doing. So as a former union rep, that's totally illegal to do.
Well, my friend, wouldn't it be great right now if the union was, I don't know, together right now as a unit that was strong?
They need me out there because I'll go straight here face to face with Jerry and curse his ass out for trying to think you're gonna just adjust the system.
No, I think it's important that this is discussed and looked into because it isn't right. And we're hearing a lot of stories now of how many players were in this position with Jerry and he negotiated with them. And it is not the way to do business. And Micah is now caught. So I was told there will be no deal until Jerry Jones negotiates with David Mugoleta. Like until those two talk and discuss numbers, which from my understanding, Jerry is not willing to move off the number that he gave Micah. Like what they talked about that day is what those days, that's what he's sticking with. And he's not moving right now.
That
right?
is
But
just bizarre.
I do think there's a mindset, though. Money fixes all, and I'm sure at some point here, Jerry's going to go, all right, I'll just dump a boatload and let's just wrap this thing up.
Right. Talking with our friend Dianna Russini, senior NFL insider for The Athletic. Check out her podcast, Scoop City. You can listen to it. You can watch it on YouTube. You can follow Dianna at DM Russini, 2 S's in Russini. I'm not going to introduce you with that other thing you mentioned. At least not yet. We're gonna have to hash that out.
We gotta work on something.
We gotta use Jeff's voice for that.
Yeah, we'll let Jeff. Jeff will track that.
That's a great idea. That's how let's get sponsored too by some like nanny group or some gym or something, right? Like we can find something. Let's get on it.
The last holdout or hold in rather is Hendrickson. By far, kind of to me anyway. Maybe that's because I'm here in this market in DC, but the Parsons thing gets the most attention because it's Micah and it's Jerry and it seems so ugly. Then I think Terry because it's a skill position. Then Hendrickson. Is there any movement there? I mean, that's a player the Bengals need.
Yeah, no, there's no movement as of today. I can tell you that. Obviously that was a deal that appeared to be getting done because Trey Hendrickson and his family they live right across from where they train, from where the team works out.
Yeah,
and he's like getting ready to go for camp the next day for when veterans report because his agent's telling him, yeah, we're doing this. Like we're in good shape. And they get 2 offers in a 24-hour period. And the conversations they had over the phone and discussions of what this deal would look like did not look like that on paper. So now you're a few hours away from when you have to report, and it's not at all what you were expecting, which is a 2-year guaranteed deal. He's looking for 2 years. So he's obviously upset, disappointed. He gets in his car, goes to the airport, heads down to Jacksonville to be with his family, and they're holding out. And then he decided to hold in, realizing, like, they got to probably put the pressure on here to say, like, this isn't how we're going to do this. Like, this is not right because, as we know, they've taken care of their star players on the opposite side of the ball, and they got the guarantees they wanted, and that's what Trey's looking for. So, look, I don't know how that one works itself out. Just because there's been no movement, zero since the day before the veterans were supposed to report. So again, I think the overarching theme that you already hit on, JP, was it's been a little quiet from a football space the last 2 weeks because everyone's just getting into camp. Let's see when this thing starts picking up.
So they kind of gave him a deal, and then when they wrote the deal up, they left stuff out. Kind of sound like LeVar Arrington and Dan Snyder, right?
It does, actually.
It's like, no, that's not what we just. There's all these miscommunications.
Yeah, you got to read that contract before you sign it.
You got to read that contract. There's a lot of lying, right? And even us covering this stuff as reporters, like these stories are sometimes hard because you're like, all right, this person is telling me this person is telling me, like even the Parsons story. I'm sure you guys saw, like I put it out the day he requested a trade. 3 hours earlier, I put out that Micah could be asking for a trade, and everyone went crazy because Cowboy players don't do that. And that was a hard story because I got two versions, right? You got the Dallas version, you got the Micah version, and it's like who's lying here? Because I'm not hearing the story is very different.
Right.
So I think a lot of miscommunications happen this time of year, and as we get closer and closer, I think people start freaking out, and we'll see a lot of these players get their money.
Last thing for me, and maybe this is obvious, sure seems like the Terry situation is in the best place of the three hold-ins of Hendrickson, Parsons, and McLaurin. It seems like the Terry, at least everybody's like civil and polite with one another.
They really are, but that's also Terry, right? I don't know many players that are calling their coach to say, hey, I'm going to be requesting a trade, like everything he does.
Right.
And even his agent works that way. I know you've been around him, and I'm sure you guys have heard him in the media. He has a certain style, but I will say everything has come across to me very professional. And they're trying to keep it mature. Yes. And again, this just plays into why Terry's great, but unfortunately, sometimes in these cases, it's not maturity doesn't always win, right? It's just really who's going to be able to get this done. And look, I think the biggest mistakes organizations make and even agents make is who's going to win the deal? Who's going to win the deal? Right. And that's where this stuff gets gross because it's not about that. Who cares? I was actually just talking to a GM the other day. He doesn't even care. He's like, I like when I don't win it because to me, there's an advantage to that. Someone's winning that is somehow going to come back to us and help. It depends on how you see it all. But I don't necessarily think Adam Peters is going up there like, this is my first big situation that I got to nail. I just think they're trying to approach this as business savvy as possible, knowing that Terry is going to be 30.
Yeah. Thank you for the time. We'll see you tomorrow in New England.
I know. I can't wait. I'm so pumped. I'm driving all this way just to see you, JP.
It'll be. You're just going to see Kerwin. I know the truth. Thank you.
Oh, my guy. Oh, can't wait. Bye, guys.
Thank you. The great Dianna Russini. Give her a follow at DM Russini. Maybe we'll hear from her tomorrow. We might have to replay the introduction to that interview no matter what.